Okay, so picking up with the motor on this, you can see there I got the motor on the workbench. It is a 1 horsepower motor that is, I think, around 1700 RPM. I've got to get it mounted on the frame of the saw. So originally when we picked this motor out, I had Stratoplane help me get it. We thought that it would mount to the existing mount, that the holes would line up, but it didn't work out that way. So I'm working here on a little metal plate, just a 1/4 inch steel plate. I had some scrap laying around. I'd actually been practicing welds on it, so I'm trying to grind those old junky welds off. I'm going to use this to kind of become an adapter between the motor and the existing mount. So you can see there, that's the mount we got to get on. And I'm just going to put this plate on here and clamp it in place and mark out some holes. So this motor mount on this machine has slotted holes that connect it to the machine. They make it go up and down, and then slotted holes that will connect the motor to. So I have some play there. I'm going to go ahead. This is the coupling that's going to match the 5/8 shaft on the motor to a 3/4 shaft on the machine. Stratoplane, again, they set me up with this. They kind of figured all that out. So I'm just right now kind of setting this motor on here so I can mark the holes on the plate on the motor mount. Just making sure everything looks good, lines up. Tracing these holes over with a Sharpie. You can see there those slotted holes on the bottom. It looks like someone really hogged those out at some point because they're pretty sloppy looking. Almost think that originally that was not slotted. They were just holes, and at some point somebody slotted them to give it some adjustability. So I recently discovered these bits here that will drill your hole and tap it. They work great. I really like them a lot. I know there's probably some die-hard machinists out there who think this is probably not the right way to do it. I'd love to hear some opinions on it, but I for a long time I would drill a hole and then tap it, but this drill bit just does both, and I think it works awesome. So I've got it going. I forget what size it is. I think it's a 5/16 bolt we're going to use here, and I'm just going to do every one of these holes. There's 4 total. So here, all I had was long bolts just laying around. I'm trying to use stuff I have laying around. So I got them started, threaded on the mount on the motor through the steel plate I made, and then I'm just grabbing them here with the drill to suck them through. That way I don't have to sit there and slowly twist them with a wrench, because you can't really get in there with anything to tighten them quickly. So yeah, I thought I was pretty smart here. Just grab them and pull them through, and then I'm going to take the angle grinder and slice those off. Problem solved. So now I have a nice flat surface here to put on the machine. Probably I didn't have any Loctite, so I probably will come back and put that on there. Don't want these vibrating loose. I realized when I was doing this that I probably should in some way protect the motor, so I had some old drop off of walnut veneer laying around. Just drop that on there just to keep any metal dust from flying into my motor. Brand new motor. I got the motor back on, got the couplings there. I'm just going to try to eyeball this shaft and line it up. That's the best I can do. I don't know honestly any better way to do this. A few taps kind of drops it in place, and then we can tighten those couplings down and we have the motor mounted. Now, one thing I want to talk about, I'm going to talk about this more at the end of the video, but I was real nervous to cut the shaft on the machine shorter, because this motor's sticking out a lot, as you know, and you probably already noted that. I don't really like it sticking out this much, but I was nervous to cut that shaft, but I have plenty of shaft I could cut off. The key on that thing is plenty long enough. So leave me a comment and let me know. The reason I'm nervous to cut it is because there's gears on that shaft, and if I mess it up, I'm kind of toast. I don't know if I can easily get a new shaft there. So I'm just kind of talking myself into doing that. So mounting the starter here. So this is the first of 2 starters I installed. This one, I don't know a lot about this electrical stuff, so I basically just sent a photo of the plate on the motor to a company online, and they mailed me this one, but the amperage was wrong. This was for like a max 10 amp, 9 amp motor, and this is going to draw 13 amps, I think. So it started the motor. I got it all wired. I figured it out. Started the motor fine, but it wouldn't keep it running. clicked it off. So I ended up having to get another, swap this one out for another one. They had the one I actually really needed was on back order. So they sent me one that was a 120 volt 3-pole starter. And the guy was like, that's not that hard. You can wire single phase into a 3-pole starter, no problem. Well, it turned out to be a little bit difficult for me. So I couldn't figure that out. I'll talk about that here in a second. I had to call them and they walked me through it. But okay, so I wanted to kind of give you an overview of the saw because it's up and running. We got it powered. I did mention there in the voiceover that I had issues with the starter. I don't know a lot about electrical stuff. I mean, I figured it out, but the original starter obviously was the wrong amps, and then they sent another one that was a 3-pole on a single, and when the input here is single phase, and so I could not figure out how to wire it. I think the company was Automation Direct or something. Super helpful. I called the guy there. I was like, dude, I can't figure this out. And you can see the conglomerate of wires here. He, I don't know, he talked me through it and got it. I could never do it again because we were just dropping wires in different spots, but we got it all figured out. If you're an electrician and you're looking at this, you might be able to make sense of it, but I just thought you might want to look at it. We'll stick that like that. All right, so I mentioned in the title that we have problems, and there are problems. I need to figure out the oil situation on the saw. It leaks like crazy. So there's oil all over the place. I actually have some rags stuck under there. It's all leaking out of the gearbox up underneath here. I have no idea how to keep this from happening. So let me open this door. This is our bottom wheel down here. And you see, like, there's oil dripping off the shaft. It's even kind of dirty looking. There's oil leaking out the bolt where the bolts are. There's oil leaking out the bottom down here. It's like, where is all this oil coming from? It makes no sense. So what this is basically, if you remember the video, and you can go back and look at the other videos, there's a gear here and a gear here. And, you know, obviously the motor's on this shaft up top, and then when the motor turns, it's going to turn this. And I filled this up. So you just take this cover off right here. It's got 2 screws. I popped that off and I filled it up with oil, probably too far. I knew I didn't need to go all the way to the top, obviously. I went about maybe a quarter of the way or a little more, and it started leaking pretty quick. So even like these little caps here, oil's leaking out through those, and it's just, man, maybe I need to buy some gasket material and tear this apart and like put gaskets on everything. I don't know. And honestly, truly, I may be using the wrong oil. I don't know a lot about like kind of what types of oils this would take. It tells you in the manual, but the manual is almost 100 years old, and none of that oil, I mean, it just, you can't Google that oil and find it. So any insight, any help into that would be great. I'm sure there's someone that's going to watch this video that can help me with that. So that's why I wanted to share that. I'm going to share with you the oil that I do use so you have an idea. It's just what I have laying around. It's a little bit thin, so it's not very viscous. So maybe that's one of the problems. If I had a little thicker oil in there, maybe a transmission fluid of some kind, it might not leak as bad. But currently, you know, we got oil coming out here where that shaft is down there. That's all oil. And as you can tell down here at the bottom, you know, that's all soaked. I'm trying to just kind of soak it up, but it's a little bit messy right now. I want to get that fixed. Another issue too is I've got the guides here. So this has a little oil reservoir in here, a little cap. I can put oil down in there. These things leak too. It just drips out of these. So I don't know if there's a thin gasket, or I could use a liquid gasket maybe on these 2 caps right here to seal that off. Let me get this. This is the last bit of parts to this. This is the bottom guide. I don't have it installed because I tore up the set screw right there. So I need to drill that set screw out and take care of that, and then get that mounted. This is the original. I say original. This is probably not the original switch, but it may be. I don't really know. This is I Googled this. I finally figured out what this was. It's an old light switch. Like when back in the days, like this was a light switch in a house. And it's, you know, this thing would go on here like this. And then when you turn it, it clicks it to on and off. And I assumed when I bought the saw that this was just the original switch. It went right mounted right there. But I don't know. I mean, it's, when I look online, it's a light switch for a lamp or for a house lights. So it's kind of cool though. And I know I can wire an external switch to that magnetic starter, so I could remount this probably and wire this to be my on and off, I think. Not 100% sure on that, but if anyone has any insight into these, this is old school here. Love comment on that. I always get a lot of good comments, so I appreciate it. So that is really it. This saw is up and running. I've been using it now for about a week. It's a great saw. It has a little bit of vibration in it. When we kick this thing on, it's got a little bit in it, and I think that's likely coming from, not a lot, this connection down here. Might need to work on that. I also am thinking about cutting this shaft and getting the motor closer because it sticks out a lot. So that's something I'm thinking about doing. I was worried, honestly. I talked a lot about this on my Patreon update. I was worried about doing something to mess this shaft up, and then, you know, remaking that shaft would be really hard because of the gear on it. So I don't know. I was kind of nervous about it, but you got a 5/8 motor shaft going to 5/8 to a 3/4. And, you know, it's got a little vibration in it, but it's not bad. Also missing some bolts. I need to put some bolts in. I don't particularly like having a switch on the back, so being able to wire that one on the front would be cool. I hate this big electrical box, and I couldn't really mount it up on the front of the saw. I mean, I could have mounted it down there, but I'd rather not. It's kind of hidden back there in some ways. This is nice here. So this is what I love about this saw, is this big table. But look at that. This is all cast iron, just nice action on it. It's a heavy table, but it tilts so nicely. Drops right down, and then you lock it in place. Yeah, I love the big cast iron table. That's one of my favorite things about this saw. I'll get a fence made for it. This saw is going to be a good saw for many, many years. Strato Plane sent that to me, so again, I want to say thanks to them. They're a huge part of this whole restoration. They did the tires on the wheels. They helped me source the motor and the coupling and figure out all that. They found parts for me. They found the original manual. They found the original purchase order on it and all that stuff. So really big help. You guys, if you're going to restore an old Oliver, those are the guys to go to. They have the parts. They have the know-how. So again, big thanks to them for helping out. Let's leave this video now with just some shots of me using the saw, getting used to it and making some cuts and get some cool action shots. And you know, you guys are going to see it a lot in the videos coming up. I'm going to be using it regularly. It's nice to have a little saw close to the bandsaw. So anyway, thanks a lot for tuning in. Real quick before I break away, this is the next build video coming up. A little sneak peek of that. It's pretty cool. So stay tuned for that. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Leave me a comment. Hopefully you guys can help me with some of these questions I have, and we'll see you next time.